Well, yes, I was born in Richmond, October 24th, 1921. My mother and father had 8 children, and I was next to the youngest. And of course, we had a good family, and most of I had 4 brothers. There's 5 boys in the family. They went to parochial school. I went for the first few years, and then I changed to public school because they had a good music program, and I was, at the early age, I was interested in music, which I later did professionally. And so I went to public school, and I went through the whole, doing the mid-years and also the senior years, and I graduated from Thomas Jefferson. And in those days, they didn't have music teachers. They had professional performing musicians. And this guy was really good from Philadelphia and so forth. And he encouraged me to go to New York and maybe study at Juilliard and so forth. Richmond didn't have any, don't have that today, but for people with talent, they have to go to larger cities sometimes. So I did it, and I pursued it in New York City, and it wasn't easy to get into school at Juilliard, because they kept saying, "Where did you say you were from?" I said, "From Richmond, Virginia." I did, and find out I was drafted, walk in. All my brothers and sisters had grown up, you know. And I had a brother. He went to New York as a commercial artist, went to Pratt Institute. And so finally, after I graduated from Thomas Jefferson in Richmond, I packed up and went by myself now to New York City and tried to get into Juilliard. They said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, I don't think you're ready for Juilliard." So they asked me, said, "Can you stay over for the summer? We'd like to assign you to your teacher, who is the principal base with Toscanini." He said that, and I said, "Yeah, I'll do it. I don't know how I'll live." But I was doing club dates, see. I joined a musicians union at age 16 in Richmond. That allowed me to get paid for what I did. When I went to Juilliard, it's a very prestigious school, of course, and they have some of the best teachers. And I was able to join the New York Musicians Union. Lord, there was 25,000 members in the union, and so the competition was quite big. And I was doing club dates. I was okay to support myself doing that. And I shared an apartment with another musician from Juilliard. He was a bass player too. Hey, we were both of us 2 bass players in one small apartment. And he later, while he was still in school, he auditioned for Porgy and Bess when they did the revival in 1940. And he was 19 years old at the time, and later on went with the Pittsburgh Symphony. I went another direction because I was drafted, and they wanted to put me in some area of the Army. I said, "I'm a musician." He old Army guy. He said, "Oh, we don't need no musicians." And I said, "Yes, to do it." I convinced him to put me in, and I joined 80 musicians who were professionals, and we had all the instruments. They played all the instruments, you know, and also we did shows performing. So we were musicians performers. We had to do all that stuff. We put on shows on the stage. When we go into a city, first place we would go was to the opera house or something, get it going. And so I played extensively. Then when visitors came in to tour, like Ingrid Bergman was there, we toured with her, things like that, you know. And it became very interesting. Well, the war was over, and we moved on into the invasion of, we invaded by France through Marseille, and went on into Germany. And when the war was over, we were in Stuttgart, Germany, big city, and a beautiful city, and everything was really bombed out, except the opera house. It stood by itself. I don't know if that was by design, but they didn't touch it. And so we took over the opera house right away and got it ready. And we were doing 3 shows a day. And we liked to do it. And so I got a lot of training. We had good people who were in show business and so forth. And so while I was in Germany, and of course the war ended, and I get a letter from home, and everybody had to be redeployed back to the States. You know, the war's over, it's take it back home. And I got a letter from home saying that they had located my grandfather, our grandfather in the family. He was from France. I'm French descent. And they located, because during the war, we didn't know where he was, because the Nazis conquered, came into France and occupied France. And so, and when the war ended, the message to all the troops was that everybody's going home. There would be no transfers. And so I'm stuck in Stuttgart, and I got to get to my grandfather in Paris. And that was a little tricky. And there were no exceptions. You couldn't get transferred across the street. But we had a trio of among 80 musicians, bass, guitar, and piano. And we entertained for special occasions for the general. When he entertained, like Eggenberg and Martha Tilton and all those folks. And he used to tell me, because he was from Richmond, he was a 2-star general. He said, Damiani, if I can ever do you a favor, don't you ever hesitate to ask me. And that rang in my ears after, because I was going around, and everybody knew that. It says, you know where you can go to get to Paris. And I went to see the general, and he facilitated my movement to get it transferred to a band in Paris. And I did, and once I got there, I liked it. I got discharged. I didn't go home to get discharged, but they allowed me, it was 11 of us, to get discharged in Paris. And I had my passport and all. Then I decided, look, I met a lot of musicians. I saw the needs. Maybe I can continue my career. And I did. And I stayed 10 years. And I discovered this blind pianist, a great pianist. If you know some of the pianists, he was just equal. And we did recordings in Paris on Silver Records and Mercury Records. And he came on the job. See, had to entertain the troops. War was over, but the troops were still there. Everybody couldn't leave at once, so they needed entertainment, and we didn't have enough musicians, so we hired French musicians. We outsourced, just the opposite. And he came on the job one day, and I recognized his talent. And he's handsome young man, and very good. Played anyway from Chopin to jazz, And so we formed this trio, Francois Chopin Trio, and I was with him for 9 years. Mostly in Paris, Monte Carlo, Geneva, Switzerland. We'd go there at the Hotel Richmond for 2 months every year at Christmas time. Oslo, we went to for the Winter Olympics. They hired us. They wanted a European flavor. They hired a French chef and all that, because they built a hotel, the Viking Hotel, just for the Olympics. So we opened the hotel. Well, I came back to Richmond. I had to decide what course I was going to take, knowing that Richmond, although a big city, it's like Norfolk, you can't make a living. I mean, the venues are not there to play. Norfolk, later on, when they built the Admiral Hotel, I played there after. But when I came to back to States from Paris, my life changed at that point because I knew there was no career, no jobs. You know, you pay a club date once in a while, and you can't live it that way. So fortunately, I met a family who was a friend of our family, and he was in a business. He wanted to set up a sales office in Suffolk. He said, "Have you ever been a salesman before?" I said, "I sell every day. I sell." When you sell yourself, it's pretty good, you know. And so that's when they opened the office here. And then one thing led to another thing. One day, after about 10 years, got a phone call. On Monday nights, my Kiwanis Club met every Monday night, and I'd go down to the Elks Club, play some cards, you know. It was out on Monday nights, and the phone rang, and some friends were having guests at their home. It says, "Can you come over? We want to introduce you to some of our friends." And not knowing what it was, and it was about 7 or 8 of them, encouraged me to run for city council. And that's how I got into that. First of all, each community had to decide on its own if they want to merge with another community, because we were so to do that, there was a lot of pros and cons. You know, some the people in the rural areas, well, we don't want to be like an urban area and all of that. They had some fear. So what we did, developed a plan that we would get out to the communities, and we formed communities, part other citizens who were not part of the, who were not in politics, or they get out and go into neighborhoods and talk what you'll get after you merge, what you won't get when you merge, and because you got to remember at that time, a lot of neighborhoods didn't even have running water. I remember distinctly in 1983, and that's when I was elected mayor. I'd already been on city council in those days since, can't remember the date, early 70s. And I when I was mayor, a lot of people from outside the city didn't know much about Suffolk, and I thought they should be. So I had a dual role to talk about Suffolk to the Suffolk and talk with the other people in Norfolk and so forth. And I did just that because, especially when I was mayor, what role should I play? And I wanted to play the role within the region, because when I went to Norfolk, they read the newspaper that morning, said, Suffolk City has 33% of the housing stock without running water. Now, you know how I felt about that. It was an embarrassment. And so I had a dual role. I had to sell Suffolk to others, but we had to do these things. And fortunately, there were several federal programs that would help to do that. And as I suggested, that we pool all the money we get instead of have a hodgepodge of little programs here and there, and go into the neighborhood and make water and sewer. And we did just that. And when you think a person couldn't do it, didn't have sewer to go to the bathroom. I mean, let's face it. But that's a reality, and I was part of that, and I was right in the middle of it, because when I had to go to other cities and other meetings, they said, well, when you all going to do something over in Suffolk and all that, you know. I came to Suffolk in '58. Suffolk hadn't changed a lot. It's grown in size, right? And when I went on council, I was in the old city. And then there was some discussion about consolidating the city with another city or county, which happened was Nansemond County. And I was very much a part of that. We talking about salesmen. You had to be a salesman because everybody was not for consolidation. Some people say, I like it is. And people in the rural areas, they didn't want to be in a big city, and you know how that was. So we had to get out there and sell it. And we sold the consolidation while over 85%. That's unusual. And since the merger of Suffolk and Nansemond County in 1974, there had been 7 or 8 attempts in the state for other mergers between cities and counties and towns and so on, and all of them failed. Because it's a referendum, and the people in both communities who were giving up there to join with them had to pass it. And this was the last one of the mergers, and there have not been any in Virginia since. Suffolk is a big area, and the first thing we had to do is how do we want to grow? Did we want to just let it spread all over? And we developed plans, the city and the planning commission, we hired consultants, but it's very, very difficult to help direct your growth. But that's the growth policy of Suffolk today, is to grow into areas that already exist but need to be enhanced and so forth, and occasionally create new areas. And one area that was created was Harborview, as an example. It was all farmland, and I remember 1987 when we rezoned that area for what we call urban development, and Harborview was one of them, along with the community college in that area. So I've seen it all. And I came to Suffolk, I was single. And I was playing some club dates in Richmond. And I went on a club date, and the guy came up to me and said, "You from Suffolk?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, my sister lives in Suffolk." I said, "Really?" And he told me who she was, the family, and she had never been married. And she's already an adult, she's close to 40 at the time. And I went, he said, "Go see her, you know, introduce yourself." And her brother, he was a dentist, but he had been at a medical school. He was practicing dentistry, but playing the drums at night. He loved playing his drums more than he did working on people's teeth. And so I did meet her, and then I dated her, and that's how it happened. And I was already an adult, you know, much. So I made Suffolk my home. I have all my life, even when I was in Paris or states like in Norway for 6 months, I adopted the customs of that city, and I you know, be part of it. And that's what I've always done, you know. Because you live in a place and you want to call it home. Even today, People live in a neighborhood don't even know who lives next door. You know, it's hard to believe, but people need to neighbors helping neighbors. We talk about that a lot. That's a good moniker. And in show business, we say whatever you want about me as long as you spell my name correct. That's okay. Anyway, people are comfortable with it. It's okay with me. It's nice that people recognize you. And I'm on the street a lot, and then they know me, and they stop and they talk, and you know, you go in some parts of Suffolk now, you might be a stranger. I can walk in maybe in North Suffolk that might not know me. But after all, I've been doing a show, television, my show. I've been doing it for 22 years. That's a lot. I got into politics. First, I joined Kiwanis International. Most cities have a Kiwanis club, the four corners of the world, just like your Rotary Club, Lions Club. We call them service clubs. You do things for your community. And Kiwanis is very good at that. And they had a pretty good sized Kiwanis club in Suffolk. A lot of the executives of Planters, when Planters was big and hired a lot of people, were members of the Kiwanis Club. And from there, you go into, you meet people and you get into industries and so forth. So I learned to, because our motto is public service. And I always looked at being on city council, not as in politics. I'm a public servant. And I listen to the people and see what they think they need and what I think we ought to have. I can draw on my broad experience living in other countries and other cities, that I have a little edge over some people who say lived in a little village all their life and been anywhere, you know. So I have a broader scope. That he wants to serve his people. He gets elected. Sometimes they forget why they got elected. They get elected to make a better neighborhood. Then the better neighborhoods of another big area. Then you get along with your neighbors in other cities, and that's where your focus should be, not trying to get elected in the next election. But that's because that's part of it, you know. But if you like public service, you do it for the good of it, not for any monetary. Because I remember when we were on council, we got $10 a week. I thought $10 a meet. I mean, you know. So it's not the money. But I don't like politics the way it is sometimes. Sometimes they lose the focus of why they're on it. And sometimes it's for their own personal needs or greed or something. But that's where you communicate with the people. If everybody understands and you get the message out. And I started in a lot of neighborhoods like Hall Place. I created Hall Place. It was a nice family right across the street, like South Main Street and all that. Families there for years, and then they started moving out, you know, and the new people. So I started several neighborhood associations, drew up the bylaws, went to their meetings, although I didn't live there. So you have to do that. You have to show that you are interested in that neighborhood, and that neighborhood is an important link to other neighborhoods. The trouble is that we don't communicate enough. Well, you have to be visible. And one visible is be part of the community. And that's why councilmen who understand what they go to these meetings, you know, have a special meeting or cookout or something from the church, and they get to meet people, and sometimes that councilman grows to a bigger arena and it becomes a delegate to the General Assembly if he has the ability. So it's always open, but the important thing is you got to remember that you serve the public and you're there. I learned early on that private businesses are not large anymore. You don't have, nobody opens up a big hardware store where you got building supplies and all that. So the shop, people go shopping for small things, shoes and all that, and you don't need a lot of space. 500 square feet, I can put a lot. I can put all the shoes in Suffolk in 500 square feet. And some of them got 1,500 feet, 2,000 square feet. And so my model that I thought, if I take a building and program it differently and look for small tenants, but to do that you had to construct the spaces. So I took the Ballard Smith, which is 12,000 square feet, and I put 13 spaces, all nice storefronts and everything like that, and I can rent them easier. You know, it's just a facing thing. Yeah, if you're an ice cream store, how much ice cream store you need? You know, today, 300 square feet, get all the ice cream you want. Yeah. If you had to build a building for government use, like courthouse, build it downtown. Don't build it where nobody is. Build it because they come there. So when we built the courthouse on the corner, that generated traffic. All you gotta do is sit in the car and watch the people. You'll see them come from the courthouse, go over to one of the sandwich shops and grab a bag and get something to eat. And so you need that. And that was always been my philosophy is if you want to enhance an area to grow, you have to feed it. Yeah, I walk around and not, you know, I'm a good observer. And I see things that I need to that should be corrected. I don't get involved anymore. After you get a certain age, you know, nobody's going to listen to you anymore anyway. But I'm still interested. And when I talk to people, I try to direct them in a direction. City strategically, it's part of the region. We have good road connections between the various cities. Now you're enhancing the new tunnels, we know that. Of course, you might have to pay for going in there. That'll always be an issue. The public had very little to do with that. That was, you know, they did it, and they knew they had to have better communication. How you do it it's just like Virginia Beach and Norfolk will never decide on light rail. But public transportation, that's what I lived on. In Richmond, we had one of the best. They pulled up the streetcars. Well, I've never been on a school bus. All went through high school. We had streetcars. Today they call it light rail. Bus service, and all hours of the day and night. I mean, people depended on it. And that's how they got downtown, that's how they got to the jobs. And then things unraveled, you know, changed, and they took up the tracks. dug them up. And later on, when they got, years later, they wanted to do the light rail, they could have used the tracks. Hard to believe. Well, I haven't really looked. I just want to be, well, I'm doing like I do what I do now. Be part of the community. I got every week I write myself an agenda. Got a map, appointment book and all the blocks here, but somehow that doesn't tell me a story. So I write me an agenda on a certain date, where I got to be, and so forth and so on. And I can make an adjustment. And sometimes I carry it in my shirt pocket. After all, my memory's not that great, My memory's all right, but if I got 3 appointments during the day to be here and there, I will make sure I know about it. So, but because I'm still active. I guess my message always has been, it's like being a good scout, helping people. You need to be a good citizen, look out for your neighbors, join organizations that do that to help, So there are many ways that you can be a good citizen, but not just go to meetings, but participate. But I remember when I was in grade school, the teacher said, look, we got classes about over. I need a few volunteers to straighten up the room and all. Anybody that want to volunteer? My hand always went up. Always. And if I had enough of it, they didn't need me. So be part of your school, be part of everything. So you do have students now who excel in certain things, and you got a lot of organizations within the school that you can participate. So the parents need to also encourage their children to be part of it. Join the groups, so forth, because you broaden your education by that. And you learn citizen participation at that early age, so it's not foreign to you, And you can do that until the next step is in church, and so forth. And some people, been doing this for years, and some people never do anything. But choose something that you're interested in and join. I appreciate you asking me to come on the show, or whatever we're talking about. And I'm always open for that, because I'm the messenger, remember. And that's what I've been talking about for the last hour almost. It's the message. And you got to get the message out through some network that you help to create, and to be that citizen. So when it comes back, it's all in the mix.